I am very honored to be able to introduce to all of you Philippe Van Parijs from Belgium. Philippe is a professor of philosophy at the University of Löwen, and you are also the chairman of the Basic Income Earth Network. We have collected some topics that we would like to discuss with you in the short time we have. First of all, as Wolfgang just introduced, the reason why we're having this conference tonight is the upcoming party congress of the German Greens. So what are your thoughts? Why is a basic income a specific green and or progressive policy?
Thank you for getting me involved in this discussion, which is of special significance for me because, in fact, the idea of basic income came to me in the early 80s when I was a member of the Socio-Economic Commission of the Belgian Green Party, Ecolo. And so it's within that context that this idea came to me, and I had to invent a term in French to refer to it. So what's the connection between basic income and the green perspective? It is not that obvious, not that self-evident, and because if you now introduce a basic income, will that make our economy greener as such? No, there is no direct connection. Of course, if you fund the basic income with ecological taxes, it will tend to make our economy more ecology friendly, but all the work will be done by the taxation, not by the basic income as such. So what is then the connection if there is no direct connection? And I see three important links which make, in my view, which make basic income really central to any green perspective on the economy and on society. The first one is that, of course, the Greens are aware that there is not only unemployment now, but there is also more unemployment coming as we introduce more and more labor-saving technology. The standard answer to the problem of unemployment is growth, more growth, faster than the growth of productivity in order to absorb the unemployed into jobs. But from a green perspective, this is crazy. We need an alternative. And the alternative consists in enabling the people who work too much to work less, and enabling at the same time the people who are excluded from work to get access to a job. And what is the most systematic way of making that possible? It is an unconditional basic income, which because it's universal and because it's obligation-free, precisely makes this double movement possible. Some people who work too much will be able to work less. The people who are excluded will be able to get into a job. And we need an alternative solution to unemployment. That's one important connection. The second connection is that you can look at the economy as consisting of three sectors. There's the private sector that is governed by the market. There's the public sector governed by the state. But there is also a third important component, which André Gorz called the autonomous sphere. And for the liberals want to get more and more of the economy under the grip of the market. The socialists want to get more and more of the economy under the grip of the state. And the Greens must say, oh, wait, because this autonomous sphere, that is all the volunteer activities, all the way from the small communities like the family to the very global communities like Wikipedia, this is very important. It's important for the good functioning of the public sector and the private sector. It's important for a sane economy to have also a very powerful autonomous sphere. And the third connection is maybe even the most important. Of course, the younger generations and the future generations will be able to consume in material goods less than ourselves. And is that a sad message? It can be a sad message, but it must not be a sad message. But then we must have a sort of realistic utopia, an alternative that is credible, but at the same time that is sustainable, that is desirable. What can it be? It must be a utopia of emancipation, where you give everyone greater possibilities, in particular those with least possibilities, and particularly give everyone a possibility of having occupations throughout life that these people like, something people like to do, all of us like to do, something we do well, and it is useful to others than ourselves. And of course, a basic income is not the only element in that realistic utopia, but in my view, it's an absolutely central utopia to have a model for a better future that is consistent with the ecological constraints that are really unescapable. So these are the three reasons why I really believe that a basic income must be central to any realistic, powerful green message in today's world, not only in Germany, not only in Europe.
Three very compelling arguments, but I assume tonight most of us are quite aligned on that. But what I would like also to hear from you, you just mentioned you first came in touch with the idea of a basic income grant when you were actually on a panel for the Belgian Greens. So what's the status at the Belgian Greens Party? What's their official stance towards a basic income?
Well, of course, as someone who's been involved in this and close to the Green Party for many years, it has been going too slowly within the Green parties. But between 2015 and 2018, both Belgian Green parties, so the French-speaking one called Écolo, the Dutch-speaking one called Grün, have organized several events, some small scale, two very big events, each of them in which I participated, and that led to a broad but vague consensus, I would say, about basic income being part of the ideal society, the just society they want to fight for. So it's part of the long-term objective. At the last general elections in May 2019, they both elaborated also short-term proposals which they explicitly related to this long-term objective, but they are very different from each other. The Francophone, so Écolo, propose a real basic income, unconditional, in all respects, at the level of 460 euros per person and per month for the young, for everyone between 18 and 26, as a replacement for the current system we have, where the parents receive some benefits for the students, full-time students in that age category. And also there is a tax reduction for all the parents who still have children within that age category at home. That would be scrapped and replaced by a real basic income for the young at the level of 460 euros. That's for the Francophone, so Écolo. And on the side of Grün, there is a quite different proposal, which is a transformation and a scrapping of the existing social assistance system, so Sozialhilfe, completely replaced by what amounts to a negative income tax at the level of each household, so that every household would be lifted at least at the level of poverty, with then incentives to work more for the people who have an income, so that they get an additional income as soon as they work. And so it's, but it's unconditional in the sense that there is no obligation to be available to work, but of course it's not individual, unlike the Écolo proposal and unlike the ideal basic income. They say, nevertheless, a strictly individual basic income is part of what we are aiming for, but at the moment, the best way forward is this one.
Okay, thank you so much for shining light on the situation in Belgium. Let's jump one level higher. You already outlined quite good the differences within the two Belgian Green parties. Do you see a possibility of making a basic income happen on a European level? Like, do you see a chance of consensus on that level?
Yes, and I think we need it, but for reasons that are very different from the reasons why we need it at the national level. And so I've been proposing now for several years, and it has been discussed in many parts of Europe. I've been proposing something called the Euro dividend. And what is meant there is a modest basic income at the level, the order of 200 euros per month, funded at the European level, and for pragmatic reasons, the most realistic would be by the VAT. It can be supplemented or partly funded also in other ways, taxes, carbon taxes, but the bulk would come for VAT. But what is the motivation for these proposals? It's quite different from, it's not directly, certainly not in countries like Germany or Belgium as a way of fighting poverty. It is in countries like Bulgaria and Romania. The reasons for defending that are, one, that it is such a EU-funded basic income would be a macroeconomic stabilizer, so a buffer against shocks, asymmetric shocks and divergences. Two, it would be a demographic stabilizer. It would enable people to stay in the more peripheral area, not to be forced to move and go and flock into the overcrowded metropolis of Western Europe. That's the second reason. Thirdly, it would be a stabilizer of the diversity and the generosity of the existing national welfare state, because it would help protect them against tax and social competition. And finally, I see it, the fourth argument is a sort of Bismarckian argument, which just as Bismarck managed to get some legitimacy and some allegiance to the unifying German state at the end of the 19th century by doing something completely utopian, completely unprecedented in the history of mankind, namely introducing a social insurance system that helped secure then the unification of Germany. Well, similarly, I believe that this sort of modest basic income that would be paid, funded by the European Union would help strengthen the legitimacy of the European enterprise among the people who don't feel they really benefit from basic income because and they are the forgotten, unlike you or me, many others. We see the benefits of the European Union for us, but many people don't see it so clearly, and a euro dividend would make that clear. Part of the benefits would be very tangible to everyone in Europe. These are the four arguments, so it's something very different in terms of its justification than what a national basic income would be.
Thank you so much, Philippe.